This video is going to provide a brief overview of how to fill out the cultural resources portion of the SWEP Type 2 CE form. Cultural resources is a general term that covers resources protected by Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, Section 4F of the US DOT Act, Section 6F of the Land and Water Conservation Fund Act, and other recreational areas and protected lands. Like other sections of the form, you'll first indicate that there are no significant impacts to cultural resources. If you click yes, a dialog box will appear notifying you that you cannot proceed as a Type 2 CE class of action if there are significant impacts. You may also select an enhancement as appropriate. For the Section 106 Protected Resources section, select either present or not present. Standard statements will be generated for all outcomes, but additional details will still need to be entered manually. It's important to review these auto-generated standard statements to ensure that your write-up does not include duplicative information. If the Section 106 resources are not present, make that selection and enter the SHPO concurrent state. You can also choose a different coordination agency, and the options are SHPO, TIPO, and both SHPO and TIPO. At this point, you can add technical materials such as a CRAS and upload attachments. A SHPO or TIPO consultation letter is a required attachment, but no additional information is necessary. If resources are present, make the appropriate selection and indicate whether they are eligible or not eligible for listing on the NRHP. If they are not eligible, select the consultation agency and concurrent state and provide a summary of the evaluated resources in the text box. If they are eligible, but the project will have no adverse effect on the resources, select the consultation agency and provide a detailed evaluation and consultation summary in the text box. If the project will have an adverse effect on the resources, make the appropriate selections and provide a summary of the resources, consultation, and MOA stipulations. Below the summary text box, you can find technical materials and add attachments. You will see these buttons throughout the form. Find technical materials will provide a reference in the PDF version of this form, but adding an attachment will include the document in the appendix of the PDF version of the form. The technical materials and attachments can be added to the form by browsing for items that are already in the project file or by uploading new items. Any new items will automatically be uploaded to the project file when added to the Type 2 CE. Click the appropriate button and either select a file that has already been uploaded or upload a new file. Be sure to fill out the appropriate fields for each document. Required attachments for Section 106 resources include SHPO or TIPO consultation or concurrence letters, memorandum of agreement, if applicable, or other appropriate coordination documents. Appropriate technical materials include CRASs, Section 106 case study reports, desktop review summaries, or Section 106 PA minimal impact determination forms. For Section 4F of the US DOT Act, indicate whether resources are present or not present, and check the enhancement box if applicable. If no resources are present, a standard statement will appear. No further explanation is necessary. If present, indicate whether an individual Section 4F evaluation will be necessary. If so, the project can still proceed as a Type 2 CE, but a legal sufficiency review for the individual 4F evaluation will be necessary and will impact the project schedule. If it is not necessary, provide descriptions of the resources, any OWJ coordination that occurred, and a summary of the applicability or approval decisions that were made. Under the text box, attach the required documents like Section 4F forms and OWJ concurrence letters, and upload technical materials such as resource management plans, Section 4F DOAs, or other documentation or correspondence. If you completed your Section 4F analysis in SWEP's Section 4F tool, there will be a checkbox below the 4F summary that will include the 4F tool's PDF as an attachment to the Type 2 CE form. Since the resource descriptions and summaries from the 4F tool are not imported, a brief summary must still be provided in the text box. For Section 6F of the Land and Water Conservation Fund Act, indicate whether resources are present or not present and check the enhancement box if appropriate. If resources are not present, a standard statement will appear and no further explanation is required. Add attachments and find technical materials as appropriate. If resources are present, a standard statement is generated and a summary of the resource evaluation is required. Again, add attachments and find technical materials if necessary. The final section is recreational areas and protected lands that were not discussed in the previous sections. If discussed previously, the resources do not need to be repeated here unless subject to review by the Acquisition and Restoration Council. If none are present, a standard statement is generated and no further work is necessary. If present, describe the resources, the analyses, and any coordination performed with resource owners or managers and the Acquisition and Restoration Council, if applicable. Below the resource issues, there is a place to add, edit, or remove any cultural resources commitments that have been made for the project. For guidance on commitments, see Part 2, Chapter 22 of the PD&E manual. Below this, all of the attachments and technical materials that have been added in the various sections of the form will appear. Here you can modify, delete, or add new files and select the order in which they will appear on the PDF version of the form. To view and download the PDF version of the form, click the PDF button at the top right corner of the page. Finally, you can select to send the Cultural Resources section of this Type 2 CE form to your designated district reviewer. Further guidance on these topics can be found in Part 2 of the PD&E manual or by contacting the Office of Environmental Management.